Hello everyone! In this video lesson I'm going to take you through some activities from page 53 of the book for you to work on some vocabulary related to clothes and expressing similarities and differences. I'm going to take you through these activities 1 through 8. We have already done activity number 1 in our last video lesson live, so we are not going to concentrate on that one. We're going to do activities 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 with this video, and then activities 7 and 8 will be left to do together in our next video call this Thursday. Okay? So before we start, I'm going to explain the vocabulary in activity 2 and then we're going to go on. All right? So let's get started. So exercise 2 asks you to think of clothing or accessories that could be described using the following words. We have the word bootcut, designer, embroidered, faded, 5-inch, flared, loud, pleated, ripped or torn, scruffy, shabby, skimpy, and stylish. I know that you might already be familiar with some of these words, but some others could be new. So let's do a quick matching activity to have all these words clear in our minds before you can actually do this activity. Okay, so let's go to a quick matching activity. All right, here we are. So we're going to match the words bootcut, embroidered, faded, and designer with these 4 pictures and their corresponding descriptions. The first one on the left is less bright in color than before. Then we have made by someone famous or fashionable. Then we've got trousers that are slightly wider at the ankle than at the knee. And finally, decorated with patterns or pictures consisting of stitches that are sewn directly onto their material. So we've got these 4 pictures, these 4 definitions, so let's match. Which of these 4 is bootcut? Yes, you're right. Bootcut is used generally to describe trousers that are slightly wider at the ankle. Which of these is embroidered? Yes, definitely. It's the last picture. And which is faded? You may know the word fade, and you may know the meaning of what to fade away is, that is to slowly disappear. So, yes, that's right. And finally, we have designer. So you can use the word faded to describe clothes that are less bright in color than before, either because it's on purpose or because they have been worn so much that this happens naturally. Then designer clothes are those, or designer accessories are those made by someone famous or someone fashionable, or by a brand that is famous or fashionable. Then we've got bootcut, that is generally used for jeans or pants. In the same way that we have skinny jeans, we also have bootcut jeans, for example. And then embroidered is when you see that something has been sewn onto the fabric to make a pattern of some kind. Okay, so let's see the other words. Then we've got the words flared, 5-inch, loud, and pleated. And the 4 pictures, plus some definitions. For the first picture, you see that jumper or sweater having unpleasantly bright colors or too strong patterns. Let me tell you that in my particular case, I don't think that these kinds of clothes are unpleasant, but in the dictionary definition, it comes as unpleasant, but I think that's a matter of taste. Now for the second picture, we do not have a definition because the word that we are looking for is used to describe that is signaled, so we don't need the definition. Then for the next picture, having narrow folds of cloth made by pressing or sewing two parts of the cloth together. Notice the pronunciation of the word sewing. It's not sewing, but sewing, sew. The spelling is tricky because it's spelled the same way as the word new, for example, so you may assume that it's pronounced applying the same rule, but it is not, so it's sewing. And finally, becoming wider at one end. So, which of these do you think is the word flared? It's the last one, yes. So flared clothes are those that become wider at one end. It can be used for dresses, it could be used for the sleeves of some clothes, for pants as well. We have boot cut, but also you can also say flared pants. I think it's even wider. Which of these is loud? I think it's pretty clear. It's loud and clear, right? Yes, it's the first one. So loud clothes are those that have very bright colors and strong patterns. According to the dictionary, that's unpleasant, but according to some of us, that's not unpleasant. Then 5-inch, I think it's pretty easy. Inches are units of measurement that we don't use here, not normally at least. But it's used to, so it could be 2-inch, 5-inch, 9-inch, and yes, in this case, it's used to describe heels. And finally, we have pleated, having narrow folds of cloth made by pressing or sewing two parts of the cloth together. All right? And now let's see the last set of words. We've got scruffy, shabby, ripped or torn, skimpy, and stylish. We've got 5 pictures and 5 definitions. For the first picture, we see a dress, and the definition is made only with a small amount of material. For the second picture, we see someone there walking, wearing special types of clothes, and it says having a special quality that makes a person or thing seem different and attractive. Then we've got that pair of boots, looking old and in bad condition because of wear or lack of care. And it goes with a rhyme there. Then we've got a pair of jeans, and it says with split fibers because they have been pulled apart. These types of jeans are pretty popular. And then finally we have old and dirty, messy. The picture doesn't show that quite well, but then I'm going to explain something about that. So, scruffy. Which of these could be scruffy? Scruffy is the last picture. So, a scruffy look or scruffy clothes, according to the dictionary, are clothes that are old and dirty and messy. However, if you look for the word or the combination of words scruffy clothes online, when you find the pictures, a scruffy look is a look of someone who's wearing everyday clothes that are not new, but that does not mean that they're old and dirty. So that's one of the meanings, okay? And it's probably the meaning that the book is looking for. But you can say that someone is with a scruffy look and it's just wearing an old pair of jeans, an old t-shirt, and maybe an old sweater or something, but that does not mean that they are dirty, for example. But still, you can describe that style as being scruffy. Then we've got the word shabby. So scruffy is old and dirty, and shabby is a bit similar to that, but it's even worse. So which one could it be? Exactly, yes, it goes with the boots. So shabby items of clothing would be looking old and in bad condition. I'm sure that there must be one of you that has a shabby pair of boots. Who doesn't? I have a shabby pair of boots that I love and I cannot do away with them. So I still keep them. Then we've got ripped or torn, used to describe clothes. Yes, exactly. It's with split fibers because they have been pulled apart. So we can say ripped jeans or torn jeans. It could have gone with the second picture. However, the definition does not coincide because on the second picture we see a man wearing torn jeans. We have skimpy and stylish. So I think that's an easy choice, even when you don't know what skimpy means. It goes with a dress, yes. So a skimpy dress would be a dress made with only a small amount of material, so it will be a tiny, tiny dress, very tight. You can also use skimpy to describe swimsuits. So a skimpy swimsuit would be a very, very tiny swimsuit, I think you can imagine. And then finally, someone who is stylish, or clothes that are stylish have a special quality that makes a person or that thing, the clothes for example, seem different and attractive. All right, so these are all the words that come with activity 2. So let's go back now to the activity and see what we can do. So it says, think of clothing or accessories that could be described using these adjectives. So while I was explaining some of the words, I have already given examples. Let's see how many you remember. So I'm going to give you maybe a couple of minutes for you to write down what you remember, what you think, or any other examples. And then we check with some general examples. So pause the video now to do that, and then press play again to check. Okay, so let's see some examples, all right? So you can say bootcut jeans, a designer top, or a designer t-shirt or pants, could be almost anything. An embroidered waistcoat, embroidered jeans, as you can see, an embroidered jacket, a faded t-shirt, a 5-inch heels, flared trousers, a loud jumper or loud sweater, loud pants, pleated skirt, ripped or torn jeans, scruffy jacket, shabby boots, skimpy dress, and stylish dress, for example. These are just some examples, all right? However, what's important of these words is that some of them can be used with almost any item of clothing, but others can only be used with a very specific set. So which of these do you think could be used with almost any item of clothing? Yes, so designer, you can say designer clothes, designer glasses, designer necklace, designer boots. You can use it with almost any item of clothing or accessory. The same with embroidered. I mean, anything that is made of cloth could be embroidered. So basically, that's it. Then faded. Well, yeah, with clothes, any item of clothing could be faded. Then loud also. You can even have loud accessories, right? Maybe very big and colorful. Earrings, for example, or rings. I have a friend who wears loud rings and loud earrings. Then scruffy, right? You can say any item of clothing could be scruffy, same as shabby, and also stylish, right? But bootcut is only for pants, right? Then 5-inch is used for, in this case, heels, but in general you find that one to describe the height of either the heel or the platform of your shoes. Flared is a bit more general, could be used for trousers, could be used for sleeves of clothes. Then pleated is very specific. Ripped or torn could be used for many items of clothing as well, yeah. But in general you find it with jeans. Ripped or torn jeans, that's the general rule. And then skimpy, well, you use it for anything that you're wearing that is very, very small, but on purpose, right? So now let's move on to the next activity. For this one, you're going to listen to a girl talking about her sisters. How many similarities and differences can you remember? So I'm going to play this once, then if you need to go back and listen to this again, you can do so by pausing and going back. I'm going to tell you to which minute of the video you have to go back in case you want to listen to this again. All right? So now let's listen and take down notes.
As you know, I've got twin sisters. They're 9 years old now and really getting up to loads of mischief. They're twins, but not identical. Emma has slightly darker hair than Maddie, and her face isn't as chubby. It's weird how closely they take after my parents. Emma is the spitting image of my dad, with his sharper nose and stocky legs, whereas Maddie is a carbon copy of my mum. She has a fierce temper and, just like my mum, loves everything sweet. They used to wear matching outfits, but they've grown out of that idea now, and there's a lot of individuality in the way they dress. But they do love clothes, and it sometimes bugs me that my mum spends so much on their clothes. What she spends in a couple of months is equivalent to what I spend in a year. Everything the twins do is consistent with what psychologists say about such siblings. They are very close and almost telepathic, and they used to have their own funny little language. Another interesting thing is that their handwriting is indistinguishable from each other's. I do envy them sometimes. However old they get, they're always going to have someone close who they are totally compatible with. I think that's a real bonus.
All right, so if you need to go back, I'm going to show you now to which minute you have to go back. That's it. And if you're ready, now I'm going to show you the answers. So, how many similarities and differences can you remember? Let's see what's similar. Their age, their love of clothes, they think the same and they have the same handwriting. And what's different is their hair color. Emma's is darker. Chubby face for Maddie. Emma looks like Dad and Maddie has Mum's character. Okay, so these are the similarities and differences between the twins. Now let's move on to the next activity, which has to do more with the vocabulary involved. So listen again. Who or what is the girl referring to when she uses these words and phrases? So now we're going to concentrate on words and phrases that are specifically used to show similarities and differences. So let's listen again and you write down the name or the thing that the girl is referring to when she uses these phrases.
As you know, I've got twin sisters. They're 9 years old now and really getting up to loads of mischief. They're twins, but not identical. Emma has slightly darker hair than Maddie, and her face isn't as chubby. It's weird how closely they take after my parents. Emma is the spitting image of my dad, with his sharper nose and stocky legs, whereas Maddie is a carbon copy of my mum. She has a fierce temper and, just like my mum, loves everything sweet. They used to wear matching outfits, but they've grown out of that idea now, and there's a lot of individuality in the way they dress. But they do love clothes, and it sometimes bugs me that my mum spends so much on their clothes. What she spends in a couple of months is equivalent to what I spend in a year. Everything the twins do is consistent with what psychologists say about such siblings. They are very close and almost telepathic, and they used to have their own funny little language. Another interesting thing is that their handwriting is indistinguishable from each other's. I do envy them sometimes. However old they get, they're always going to have someone close who they are totally compatible with. I think that's a real bonus.
Okay, great. So we've got these 6 things: the spitting image of, a carbon copy of, individuality, equivalent to, consistent with, and indistinguishable. If you need to listen to this again, you go back to the minute that appears on screen, and then you come back here to check. Now I'm going to check. So, the spitting image of their father, a carbon copy of their mother. The twins show their own individuality, so it refers to the twins. Then equivalent to, it refers to the money spent on the writer's clothes in a year, consistent with their behavior, and then the twins' handwriting is indistinguishable. All right, so these are the words. So the spitting image of, does it show similarity or difference? Similarity. A carbon copy of, similarity as well. Individuality, it shows difference because it means that each one of them individually has her own characteristics. Equivalent to, similarity, consistent with, similarity, and indistinguishable similarity as well. Great. Now let's move on. So in this task, you have to complete the text with the words and phrases from exercise 4. So I'm going to give you a minute for you to pause. You can complete that by looking at the screen, or you can go to the page and complete that and then come back to check. So pause the video now, do this activity, and then come back and we're going to check. All right, so we are ready now. It says, my English friend has to wear a school uniform, so she looks completely indistinguishable from her classmates. The important thing here is indistinguishable from someone or something else. So it's used with the word from. They all look the spitting image of each other. The spitting image of something. Personally, I'm glad we don't have that here, because I think teenagers like to show their individuality through their clothes. We can wear almost anything as long as it's consistent with the school rules about appropriacy. And her uniform is expensive too. A school blazer, for example, for her is equivalent to what it costs me for a whole outfit. Mind you, the skirt she has to wear is a carbon copy of one I bought just last week, so maybe her school does have someone fashion conscious on the team. All right, so this text is talking about school uniforms, which is something that is quite close to you, right? You have to wear a uniform when you go to school. Right now you're not, but I've heard that some people are missing wearing the uniform because they give this sense of unity and belonging to the same team in a way. Let's move on to the next task. Okay, it says complete the article with these words. So now we have other words different from the ones that we've been working on to complete this article that on the page is exercise 6, where you see the picture of the singer Sia. But before we complete this, I'd like to explain just a few things about some of these words, which I think could clarify some stuff. So, yeah, some of these words that you have to use are the words anonymity, rebellious, synonymous, take, uproar, and wavelength. I imagine that you already know what anonymity is, synonymous, the word take. Some of you might have a difficulty with the word rebellious, and maybe you don't know what uproar or wavelength are. So let's see. What I'd like to say about the word anonymity is that anonymity is the noun for anonymous. Anonymous is an adjective. Anonymity is the noun. So this is for you to have in mind before completing the gap, that anonymity is a noun. Then we have the word rebellious. And rebellious is an adjective. Remember that words in English that end in OUS are adjectives. The same way as words in English that end in ITY as anonymity in itty are nouns. So that's a clue that is very useful. Rebellious is an adjective. And this adjective comes from the word rebel, which we saw some video lessons ago. Rebel is a noun. It describes a person that likes to go against the rules. And the verb for that noun is, how do you pronounce that? Rebel. Rebel. So the noun is rebel and the verb is rebel. That's something to consider. Then we've got the word synonymous. It ends in OUS, so it's an adjective, exactly. And it's the adjective for the word synonym. Synonym is the noun. Then we have the word take, and you may think, teacher, you're crazy. Why on earth is the word take on this list? The word take is such an easy word. Well, it is, but the meaning that is required in this text is quite different from what you're used to, because take is combined with the preposition on to make up this phrase. So your take on something is your opinion about something. So the word take here is not the verb, it's a noun, right? Your take is like your opinion. So what's your take on this? It's like, what's your opinion about this? You should consider here the preposition, take on something, However, opinion is used with the preposition about. So this is something that I wanted to tell you to have in mind. Then the word uproar. Uproar is a situation in which a lot of people complain or make a lot of noise, and it's generally used together with the word cause. So something causes an uproar. So it causes a lot of noise and causes people to complain. So that's an uproar. And then finally we have the word wavelength. Wavelength is a word that is used scientifically to describe sound, the movement of sound waves, and also color. It's used to describe color scientifically, right? But this is not the way it is used in the text, of course. In the text, wavelength is used together with the expression on the same or on a different wavelength, thinking the same or differently. So if two people think the same, you can say that they are on the same wavelength. But if two people think very differently, you can say that they are on different wavelengths or on a different wavelength. All right? So I wanted to clarify these things before you actually went and completed the text, because I think these things could be very, very useful. So now let's go back to the text. Here we are. My advice is now that you pause the video, you go to the page because you cannot see the whole text on the screen, and you complete the text. When you're done, you come back to check. So pause now. The next time I speak, I will be checking. All right, so let's check. Head down, but standing out. There are some celebrity artists whose names are synonymous with eccentricity. Synonymous with, that's something important. Think of Björk, Lady Gaga, Johnny Depp, and so on. Of course, there's a or an. The use of a or an would depend on what's on the gap. There's a world of difference between the lives of famous people and our own. So you can say that there's a world of difference means that there's a huge difference. So this is a nice expression to show how big the difference is. So there's a world of difference between the lives of famous people and our own. They're definitely on a different wavelength. There's something in the psyche of people who earn their living by standing out. You knew this one, we saw it a few lessons ago. Standing out from the crowd, which makes them rebellious, always wanting to challenge the norm, and delight in causing being the key word here, causing an uproar. Yes, very good. They have a refreshingly different take on life to the rest of us. In fact, they probably need an element of eccentricity to actually fit in to their chosen profession. Great. However, the stunts of some of these celebrities, remember Lady Gaga's dress made of raw meat, are a far cry from the brand of eccentricity of the talented Australian singer Sia. A far cry means that there's a lot of difference or distance between the two things, all right? Whereas most famous people want us to know their faces, Sia has hidden hers since 2013 under her bright blonde wig. Apparently, this is down to a quest for privacy and a desire for anonymity. Not always, but often, the sign of a true eccentric. All right, so we've got all of these. As you can see, I left outside of the explanation a world of difference. Then I left standing out and fitting in because you already knew those. And I left out a far cry because I wanted to see how well you could manage with one I had not explained. And I think, or I predict, you did very, very well. All right? Good. So now let's move on. We are going to do this task together, hopefully, in the video lesson if we have time, if not this one, the next one. It says work in pairs and complete the definitions, then give an example of someone you know who is like this. We're going to very quickly go through these these, so if you want to prepare them for the lesson, that would be all right, and it would help the flow of the lesson. So a person who is rebellious is someone who, you need to complete that. A person who likes anonymity is someone who. A person who likes to stand out is someone who. A person who causes an uproar is someone who. A person who has an interesting take on life is someone who. A person who is on the same wavelength as you is someone who. And a person who is the spitting image of someone famous is someone who, blah, blah, blah. You define that, and then you give an example. So I'm going to do one for you. A person who likes anonymity is someone who is very private and doesn't want other people to observe their every move. For example, that would be my brother. My brother likes anonymity. He's a very reserved person, for example. All right, so that's the way it goes. And then the next task, which is a speaking task. Do you know about any famous eccentrics? How do they behave? Why do you think some people who try to stand out from the crowd are admitted, whereas others are criticized? So these are two questions that we're also going to describe in our next video lesson. Then I'm going to leave as homework for you to do and solve on your own some practice on this vocabulary, all right? That would be all. Thank you very much for watching the video and see you on Thursday. Bye bye.